We're going to have Albert on here in a few moments. I think he's an interesting guy to ask what the Browns should have learned from the Baker fiasco. Well, we can obviously talk about where the hell's going on right now.
He had some strong comments on the Tom Brady situation as well last night on X, and so I'm dying to find out, as somebody who's plugged in as he is, what his interpretation of that is.
I am surprised that Albert's kind of been on all over this story for a minute. But I'm surprised that a lot of media brethren woke up surprised during Monday Night Football.
I think it was the visual. I think the visual of Brady wearing the headset and looking like he was doing, this isn't just you owning whatever percentage of the team that he owns, where you're sitting up there and you're having wine and cheese and you're in the suites and you're just kind of laughing and basically being a glorified ambassador to the team. This is you wearing a headset. This is you getting involved in a very heavy and interesting and influential way, and I think that took a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, the NFL. So Tom Brady. This is like an extension of Spygate. Tom Brady is being given unparalleled access to teams and their coaches and their players throughout the week, while also being, because of his broadcasting duties, while also being able to sit and watch film with Chip Kelly, the Raiders offensive coordinator, multiple times a week. To this idea that Tom's going to just be like, hey, just so you know, I can't tell you any of the things I talked about with those teams is shockingly naive if that's what the NFL thinks is going on.
He's on the field before the game. He can talk to all the different players. He can watch and listen to the coaches. And I thought Albert's point from last night was more the idea that, hey, now in talking to all these guys, he's got such a pulse on what the next best head coach is or assistant coaches, all these guys, and it just gives you an advantage that the other guys don't have, and that's why it needs to be limited.
Well, and what's crazy about it is anyone could have seen this coming. If you know anything about how, I don't know, millionaires act, if you know anything about football players and the willingness, Tom Brady's one of the 5 most competitive guys we've ever seen in sports, who is willing to go to any lengths to win. Imagine if you gave that guy unfettered access around the NFL. And listen, it's so funny because I've heard people say, well, how good could the access be? He lost to the Raiders. Yeah, it might not matter now. Let's say they get the next Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. If you're going to tell me that over time that kind of information isn't a massive boost to the Raiders and a massive disadvantage for everyone, because it's also a distraction. Like if you're going to production meetings wondering, am I going to give away anything that this jabroni is then going to run back to the Raiders? Oh, they might not be on the schedule this year, but information is everything in 2025, especially in football.
We suffer in the process of it, right? And this is what they should do, by the way. The teams that are now doing Tom Brady's games, either you say Tom Brady can't be in the room, you go back to what it was last year, or you just straight up just start lying to him, because and then we suffer in the process. Us trying to watch the games, we get a lack of information then, and we suffer, and that just
also hasn't made him any better at broadcasting, for what it's worth.
No, and that was the weird part of the fight from last year, was that he was so adamant that he needed to be involved in these meetings because it was just going to make him that much better of a broadcaster. And you fast forward, and that we haven't really seen the fruits of that labor either. I don't know. If I'm the Browns, can we offer like Greg Olsen a minority stake or something?
Yeah.
How do we get our part?
Well, I mean, they do have Charles Woodson, who's on the pre-show.
The pre-show. They don't get the access that we want.
By the way, Charles isn't bad. Julian Edelman is just awful.
Edelman's not good.
What a smug, unrelatable human being.
He pops up on my TikTok all the
He's perfect.
time.
He's perfect for whatever podcast, video podcast. He belongs in that forum, because if you put him on a panel for an hour, it's just like, who is this jerk? He's not incredibly knowledgeable. Is it something with the Patriots? Did they just have a bunch of dum-dums with no personalities, and then Belichick and Brady just kind of marionetted their way to 6 Super Bowls?
You got to be puppets. I don't know.
Teddy Bruschi's actually not bad. Let me walk that back. I like Teddy on TV.
That was early Patriots.
Yeah, that's fair. Before Bill got his meat hooks into him.
Pre-Aaron Hernandez.
We are working to get Albert Breer. We'll see if we can get him on here.
Well, that's when Bill just started going for it.
Yeah, that's when he really was.
That's when he was just like, we'll just take anybody that has talent.
It really bugged me, and the funny thing is, The NFL has continued to put out stories to kind of push back and be like, wow, it's a unique opportunity. It's like, no, you did this because Fox put pressure on you and because you're so beholden to TV money that then you just went around and you rigged it for a formerly great quarterback in the NFL because he's the biggest name in football.
Yeah, well, it's almost as if the NFL
you're
is
not doing this for Drew Brees.
No, but
you're doing this for Colt McCoy.
It's almost as if the NFL is like scared of Tom in this way, and they shouldn't be. The NFL holds the cards in this equation, but they don't look at it this way, and I don't understand why.
So we've got Lance Reisland coming up in about 15 minutes here, but we head out to the fan hotline and welcome in our good buddy, Albert Breer. Albert, welcome to the show, bud.
Hey, what's up, guys? How we doing?
Doing very well. We were just talking about a little bit about your tweet from last night about Tom Brady in the booth, and we were kind of talking about our angle of it and just how interesting it was. Can you just walk us through what you tweeted last night and some of the information you have about Tom Brady and his dual role as owner and broadcaster?
Yeah, I mean, are you talking specifically to what his role with the Raiders is?
Well, no, I think the idea that he's able to be in production meetings and then also do.
You mean like kind of like the advantage that he would have from being on a broadcast crew?
Yes.
It's all like most of it's about access, and like your access to different people that other teams wouldn't have, right? Like so, it is like there can be a strategic advantage, of course, in getting the chance to essentially live scout the teams, which like isn't allowed for everybody, and other teams can have people there, but they can't have people on the field before the games. So there's that element of it, and of course, like any strategy anybody divulges in a production meeting would be a concern. If you're the Commanders, you had Brady in week 1, and you have the Raiders in week 3. If you're the Bears, you have Brady in week 3. You have the Raiders in week 4. So. Obviously, I think that would kind of create some concern in an immediate sense. But then I think there's like bigger picture stuff too, which is, if you're, say, like the Raiders are looking at a free agent or the Raiders are looking at trading for someone, well, like now Brady might have had access to those players through his Fox job that other teams wouldn't have had, which gives them a little bit of an advantage just as far as knowing who those guys are and everything else. So there are a lot of layers to this and a lot of different reasons why it could create an advantage for the Raiders. And I think one question that's been interesting for me to answer or for me to field over the last 24 hours is, from teams like that are in direct competition with the Raiders is like, how come the league has suddenly changed its tune on letting them in production meetings, which like gives them another level of access to the people involved in the games. I think all of that is fair, for the same reason, like, I don't know, who do the Browns play this week, guys?
The Packers.
All right, so do you think the Packers would have wanted Jimmy Haslam interviewing Micah Parsons 2 weeks ago?
Well, given Jimmy,
Probably
they might.
not, right?
Probably not, yeah.
Probably not. I mean, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like that would probably seem really weird to you, right?
Yeah.
So like I think it's slippery in a lot of different ways, and I guess the one solution was I think Brady would be great in a studio analyst role, but it's hard to justify paying somebody $37.5 million per year for a studio job.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. All right, so we watched Baker Mayfield last night, and he was awesome. The second straight game, we've watched him just drive down the field and win the game for Tampa. And it had us everyone kind of all day long discussing what can the Browns learn from the Baker Mayfield experience, if anything.
Well, I think there were a couple of things. I mean, number one, I don't know that they have the version of Baker that exists now. I do think Baker would tell you this himself, that there was some growing up he had to do, and does that happen if they pay him? I don't know. I think the second piece to it is, just the cost of doing business at quarterback. And a big part of that discussion internally for them was they had gotten to the point where, okay, like it's time to make a decision on him, and we got to figure out whether or not we're going to pay him and give him a big long-term deal, or we're going to move on. And he was 4 years in, so they were going into the fifth-year option, which, again, that kind of creates this scenario for you if you're the Browns, where if it's your own guy, you're not going to get away with paying him 30 like the Bucs did. If you draft him first overall, you're probably going to have to pay him more like 50 or 55. And so are you comfortable doing that? And the Browns kind of felt like at that point, like, he's a really good quarterback, but is he worth like paying at the top of the market? No. And so they decided, like, here's an opportunity to pay somebody. Here's an opportunity to get somebody who has shown he can play at the level of someone who should be at the top of the market, Deshaun Watson. And obviously for a lot of different reasons it blew up in their face. So do you look at that and say, we should have bitten the bullet, and it's just the cost of doing business of paying a guy at that position? Do you try to get away with paying him less? Do you go through the process of franchising him, which will probably piss him off and create like a different set of problems? It's just complicated, you know? And it's sort of, I think, you know, kind of the trickle-down effect of taking a quarterback first overall is, you know, like, unless the guy is like a slam dunk, like he's going to Canton someday, you have these sorts of hard decisions you have to make.
Albert, it feels like it's getting late early here in Cleveland after the way the Browns got shellacked by the Ravens. There's been talk with Dylan Gabriel playing late in this game, getting a touchdown. Are we closer maybe to a quarterback change than we thought? Are you surprised at the QB benching talk this early?
Yeah, because I don't know what it accomplishes. I mean, I understand. Like, on one hand, I understand why fans would talk that way, and I said it to you guys over the summer. Like, a lot of fans are correctly looking at this year as a little bit of a transitional year for the Browns. You know, you trade out of 2, you build up some draft capital for the future. You got some players in the roster who are older, and you're treading water at quarterback. So, like, I think a lot of fans have correctly identified this is a year of transition for the team, for the organization as a whole, and they're making an effort to get younger now. So, like, ideally, you'd want to come out of this year with a picture of what you've got at quarterback to inform your decision. So, a fan would look at that and say, well, like, you know, we already know what Joe Flacco is. Let's find out who the other guys are. On the flip side, you got a locker room full of players that don't play that position. That, you know, you got to do the best thing by them, and you got to do right by them. And if you're gonna like continue to have if you're gonna have a season, you know, with that group of players, then you gotta, at least while you're still in contention and still have, you know, like some sort of hope of contending for the playoffs, you got to give those guys the best answer at that position. And the best answer at the position is still Joe Flacco. So I think once you fall out of contention, the question becomes different. But I think for right now, you still have to give your players the best quarterback in the roster. The best quarterback in the roster is still Joe Flacco.
Albert, great stuff as always, buddy. We'll catch up with you next Tuesday, and we'll see. Are the Browns 1-2? Or are they 0-3? We'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, I'm sorry about being a little late today. I'll get you guys back for that next week.
We always appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much.